Hello, everyone. This is Pastor Ryan Pronzinski of Christ Lutheran Church in Michigan Center, Michigan, and this is my Chair Chat Daily Devotion for Monday, October 19th, 2020. Peace be with you. These video devotions are intended to help you engage your life of faith during this time of pandemic, and so with engagement in mind, I encourage you to leave constructive comments, questions, or prayer requests in the comments section below, and I promise that I will get to these in the following videos. I also encourage you to engage either in this space or in others with people in your household, with friends over the phone, with letters in the mail. I don't really care how you do it. I encourage you to engage with one another in your faith, because when we engage together, we learn more, we learn best, and we remember more. And we can be as Christ unto one another in these moments. And again, as I've said in like so many other videos, faith is not an individualistic practice. It is a communal one. So I encourage you to find ways to engage with others. All right. That being said, the readings that get put forth in the videos, these videos come from what's called the Daily Revised Common Lectionary, which is a church calendar reading schedule, and it can be found online. We are in year A of that cycle. And so the readings for today, which are in the description below, are as follows. We have Psalm 98, Daniel chapter 3, verses 1 through 18, and Revelation chapter 18, verses 1 through 10, and verses 19 through 20, which I'm not going to read today because the other readings are kind of longer. And since Revelation pops up again tomorrow, I'm going to take today's reading from Revelation, and I'm going to just add it on to tomorrow's. So know that it is for today. It's scheduled for today, but I'm going to read it tomorrow. So today it's going to be just Psalm 98 and the reading from Daniel, chapter 3, verses 1 through 18, which that's also going to continue on into tomorrow. So tomorrow is going to be Daniel 3, 19 and following, and then Revelation 18, 21 and following with the verses from today. All right. Before I get to the reading from Psalm 98 and Daniel chapter 3, as always, I'd like to invite anyone who is out there watching these videos to come and join us at Christ Lutheran Church for the live streaming of our worship services. We've been using Facebook Live. The link to those videos is in the description below. And so if you'd like to, on Sunday mornings at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can follow that link to our live stream and join us for worship. Leave prayer requests in the comments section, song requests, say hello to the people that are viewing with you, and be a part of worship with us in that way. Yeah. And if you can't make it for the live stream, just check out the videos when you can and hear about how God in Christ Jesus loves you. With that being said, move on to the first reading, which comes from Psalm 98 and reads as follows. O sing to the Lord a new song, for he has done marvelous things. His right hand and his holy arm have gotten him victory. The Lord has made known his victory. He has revealed his vindication in the sight of the nations. He has remembered his steadfast love and faithfulness to the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth have seen the victory of our God. Make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Break forth into joyous song and sing praises. Sing praises to the Lord with the lyre and the sound of melody, with trumpets and the sound of the horn. Make a joyful noise before the King, before the Lord. Let the sea roar and all that fills it, the world and those who live in it. Let the floods clap their hands. Let the hills sing together for joy at the presence of the Lord, for he is coming to judge the earth. He will judge the world with righteousness and his peoples with equity. Here ends the reading. So I must admit that after I finished reading this psalm this morning for the first time, I just sat for a bit and I wondered, when's the last time that I've heard groups of people who have made a joyful noise free from any anxiety or fear. I must admit that I had a hard time thinking of examples. I don't have many. I must admit, I did talk with my one friend who went on vacation and went hunting, and it sounds like he had a bit of an experience where he was able to kind of get away from some of the anxieties and disruptions of this pandemic. But that's not really a group. That's just him and a handful of family. So I combed back through the psalm, and I re-noticed the word victory. I mean, I kind of knew that that word was a theme because it starts out that way, but it's like 3 times in a row immediately to start the psalm. And then I was like, oh, maybe I can do something with that. But, during a pandemic and an economic recession at best, it might very well be a depression. I don't know who gets to decide these things. And with much of life being severely disrupted, who's really feeling victorious right now? I mean, truly, honestly. And I mean that in the whole holistic sense, not in the individually. Yeah, there might be an individual somewhere that's like, I don't know, I work from home, bro, my job's secure, it's doing good, I'm rocking and rolling, and I'm an introvert, I like to read books, so life's good. It's like, yeah, no, I mean victorious for the world, society, communities. It just doesn't feel like a very victorious time. And then, right, with all the other imagery in the psalm, at least if you live in Michigan, right, as the leaves begin to fall and the trees, from the trees, and we head into the cold quiet of winter, right? What in nature is really making a joyful noise right now? I mean, I don't hear the cardinals anymore. I don't hear my mourning doves anymore. Soon I won't hear the leaves rustle anymore because there won't be any more. And so, this psalm was beginning to sound like a hope more than a reality at this present day, on October 19th, 2020, right? We want a victory over the virus and the disruptions of life, and then to have the ability to make a joyful noise out as we celebrate the virus's defeat, right, and getting back to life as normal. I mean, I remember at the very beginning of this pandemic, I was like, I think we need to try and come up with some liturgy, right, some prayers during a Sunday service that we could all do collectively in the church, at least us in the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, that kind of celebrates this fact. When we get to that point when it's like we can kind of proclaim victory over this period of pandemic. We all want that, but that's not where we are right now. So I sat and I reread the psalm again. And then I reread this bit. I'm going to share this with you. He, that is God, has remembered his steadfast love and faithfulness to the house of Israel. All the ends of the earth have seen the victory of God. And that kind of struck me. I needed to read it a 3rd time, apparently. We have seen the victory of God as we see and remember God's loving faithfulness, God's steadfast love and faithfulness. Now that's something that we can witness even now and shout for joy for even during this time of pandemic, God's steadfast love and faithfulness to us. Whether it's words of affirmation and prayer over the phone or a video call, whether it's a thoughtful card in the mail, a care package, or someone leaving a jar of jelly or a container of food in a bag hanging on your door handle at your apartment, whether it's a friend consistently meeting you, right, online for game night, or someone sharing their favorite book with you to be able to read during these times when we're more socially distanced. And yes, these are all things that have actually happened in my life recently. Whether it's any of these things or other things that I imagine has happened in your life, right? You have seen the victory of God as you look for and you remember God's steadfast love and faithfulness coming to you through the people around you. It happens. So with this psalm in mind that calls for us to sing a new song today, I encourage you to think of your own examples of how God's steadfast love and faithfulness has come to you through others. And as you think of those examples this morning and you watch this video, or whenever you watch this video, it may not be the morning of October 19th, just say, thanks, God. Thanks, God. And let that be your joyful noise for the day and a recognition of the victory of God in your life. All right, moving on to Daniel chapter 3, verses 1 through 18. This is a bit of a reading here. So before I get going, just some background. This is a story that takes place during the Babylonian captivity, that is an empire that is a neighbor of the nation of Israel, that has taken captive many of the people of Israel into Babylon. So we are in Babylon. And so King Nebuchadnezzar is the king of Babylon at the time. And so this story is about primarily Daniel, but there's also 3 other Israelites who get Babylonian names. We'll get to them. So here we go. So King Nebuchadnezzar made a golden statue whose height was 60 cubits and whose width was 6 cubits. He set it up on the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then King Nebuchadnezzar sent for the satraps, the prefects, and the governors, and the counselors, and the treasurers, and the justices, and the magistrates, and all the officials of the provinces to assemble and come to the dedication of the statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. So the satraps, and the prefects, and the governors, and the counselors, and the treasurers, and the justices, and the magistrates, and all the officials of the provinces assembled for the dedication of the statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. When they were standing before the statue that Nebuchadnezzar had set up, the herald proclaimed aloud, "You are commanded, O peoples, nations, and languages, that when you hear the sound of the horn, and the pipe, and the lyre, and the trigon, and the harp, and the drum, and the entire musical ensemble, you are to fall down and worship the golden statue that King Nebuchadnezzar has set up. Whoever does not fall down and worship shall immediately be thrown into a furnace of blazing fire." Therefore, as soon as all the peoples heard the sound of the horn, and the pipe, and the lyre, and the trigon, and the harp, and the drum, and the entire musical ensemble, all the peoples, nations, and languages fell down and worshipped the golden statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Accordingly, at this time, certain Chaldeans came forward and denounced the Jews. They said to King Nebuchadnezzar, "O king, live forever. You, O king, have made a decree that everyone who hears the sound of the horn, and the pipe, and the lyre, and the trigon, and the harp, and the drum, and the entire musical ensemble shall fall down and worship the golden statue. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be thrown into a furnace of blazing fire. There are certain Jews whom you have appointed over the affairs of the province of Babylon: Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego." Again, these are the 3 Jewish people whom have been given Babylonian names. These, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they pay no heed to you, O king. They do not serve your gods, and they do not worship the golden statue that you have set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in furious rage, commanded that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought in. So they brought those men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar said to them, "Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you do not serve my gods, and you do not worship the golden statue that I have set up? Now if you are ready, when you hear the sound of the horn, and the pipe, and the lyre, and the trigon, and the harp, and the drum, and the entire musical ensemble, to fall down and worship the statue that I have made, well and good. But if you do not worship, you shall immediately be thrown into a furnace of blazing fire. And who is the God that will deliver you out of my hands? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to present a defense to you in this matter. If our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the furnace of blazing fire and out of your hand, O king, let him deliver us. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods, and we will not worship the golden statue that you have set up. Here ends the reading. So I didn't notice this the first time through, although you'd think I would with all the and. I threw the ands in. They get cut out in the writing, but they're intended to be put in there for the ear, because then it sounds like there's a lot, because there is a lot, all the different instruments. It's similar to the psalm, right? Make a joyful noise to the Lord with lyre and harp, right? Then now we kind of have this parallel story of how the king Nebuchadnezzar is trying to do this for himself and his own gods. Anyway, this story is great because it just makes the king of Babylon, right? And this is the enemy of the people of Israel, and the king's followers, they all just seem so stupid and ridiculous, right? I mean, just imagine putting up just a statue of any kind, and then like taking the world's greatest symphonies and bands and orchestras and putting them all in one place and saying, like, 6 times a day you have to all play at once as loud as you can, the most whatever catchy tune you can come up with that seems to honor this statue. And then if everybody doesn't immediately fall to their face on the ground and start bowing and worshiping this statue, right, then you're all going to get thrown into like the most horrible, awful thing I can think of, this fiery furnace, because dang it, I'm the king and I say so, right? Like, and what is intended to be perceived as victorious and strong just ends up sounding so ridiculous. They try and make a statue, just a statue, seem victorious, shall we say, and holy and mighty and awesome. And they do so by surrounding this statue with as many flamboyant trappings as possible. And then to bolster this false god all the more, they threaten to kill anyone who doesn't play this game and participate, right? Including the 3 Israelites with Babylonian names, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Now, I don't want to get into the story too much because we're going to hear the rest of it tomorrow. But I will say this today. I want you to think about this, because this story can seem like, okay, Pastor, like nobody does this today. Like, what does this have to do with me? All right, hear me out. We often can surround our lives with trappings and embellishments to make ourselves feel superior, right? But at the end of the day, like the psalmist reminds us, where we ought to rest our head and put our trust is in God's goodness and steadfast love and faithfulness, right? Otherwise, we are all we're doing is putting on a ridiculous show, like the characters in Daniel today. And you might be going, but like, we don't do that, Pastor. We don't put on ridiculous shows in order to feel superior or good. Hold the phone there. Dude, we throw parades, citywide parades. I'm from the Chicago area. When the Chicago teams win the championship, whether it's, the Blackhawks, well, that's pretty much the only team that's done it of late. So we'll just go with them. The Blackhawks, I mean, there's like, there's confetti and music, and I mean, it's like they close down streets. I mean, it's insane. All for a sports team. and all they do is play a game. It's just a game. That's it. And I'm not saying I'm negative towards sports. I love sports, but at the end of the day, it's just a game. But we treat them like they're like the world's greatest people because they can, push a puck around the ice in a really fancy, high level. Whoop de frickin' do. Anyway, and that's true for other teams and cities too, right? And people lose their freaking mind. In a different way, right? We have rallies for political leaders. We have these huge rallies, right, with music and lights and balloons, right? As if they're somehow like these people that could like walk on water. But in the end, they always let us down somehow, right? On something. They're not perfect, right? And sometimes they flat out lie to us. They make us all these flamboyant, fancy promises, and they don't keep any of them. And, we go to concerts, huge concerts, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, sometimes festivals, and cheer on our favorite bands and musicians. Some people lose their gold dang mind. I mean, they put on like makeup and clothes and they just go nuts, right? But at the end of the day, these people don't really know who we are. They don't know us. They don't come to us in our toughest moments of life and speak words of love and healing and hope. And that's true for the politicians as well and the sports teams. If we really think about it, we can act just as ridiculous as the Babylonians today, right? With their harps and lyres and trigons and drums, etc. We're putting lots of energy and excitement into things that aren't really all that important. But what this story shows us is that when life gets hard, when we find ourselves facing the fiery furnaces, metaphorically, of our life, all these other things that we surround ourselves with bright and shiny trappings, they don't help. They're just a distraction. So I'll end this section by asking this. What fiery furnaces do you face today? What challenging situations do you face that feel like they could really burn you, right? Or harm you? And I want you to just kind of ponder that for a while. What are the challenges? And maybe how you've tried to use the shiny trappings to distance yourself from those hard feelings, those fears, to kind of numb them, maybe distract yourself. And then hold on to those, because tomorrow we're going to see the conclusion of this story. And we'll see how God is good. And we get to see the victory of God, how God is victorious, and celebrate that. With that, I say to you again, peace be with you, and I will talk to you tomorrow.